With the turn of a new year, there are a ton of things to look forward to in the gaming world, and foremost among them, at least for Fallout fans, is the prospect of Fallout 4 DLCs. Now, I'm not really sure about you guys, but I am actually very much looking forward to seeing what Bethesda does with the extra content, because while Fallout 4 wasn't a bad game, it definitely did have its share of problems, and like a lot of other gamers out there, I'm interested to see what Bethesda does to address these problems. So in honor of the approaching release of Fallout 4's first DLC, today I'm going to be discussing with you guys what I think would be the ideal DLC for Fallout 4. Okay, so first off, before we get into the actual DLC discussion, I want to briefly discuss some of the problems that I had with the base version of Fallout 4, since in order to determine the best direction for the DLC, we really need to first understand some of the problems with the main game. One major problem I had was I felt like the factions for the most part were a little bit boring, at least compared to previous Fallout and previous Bethesda games. The Brotherhood of Steel were assholes, and not in the sense where you're like, whoa, these guys are insane, I want to join them. No, they were just straight up unlikable assholes. The Institute was a phenomenal concept, just not all that well executed at times, although I will say that they are my personal favorite faction in Fallout 4. The Minutemen weren't bad, but they weren't exactly good either, and I really felt like some of the quests associated with the Minutemen were incredibly redundant at times. Oh, and Preston, he is by far the most boring person I've ever met in my life. Finally, the Railroad was also a pretty interesting concept, but like the Institute, it wasn't as well executed as it could have been at times, so while I don't hate them, I wouldn't say that I particularly like them either. The second problem I had with Fallout 4 was that the storytelling was a little bit bland at times. It didn't really have a bad story per se, but it definitely didn't compare to the stories of some previous Fallout games like New Vegas, and definitely not Fallout 1 and 2. Finally, the last and most glaring problem I had was that the quests in the game felt incredibly shallow, and I really didn't feel like there was enough content overall. I felt myself getting bored of Fallout 4 much quicker than I expected, and in a Bethesda game of any sort, that's definitely not a good sign. And obviously this isn't to say that I hate Fallout 4 or anything like that, just that like any other game out there, it did have its share of problems, and I really think that Bethesda can make up for a lot of the problems with the main game if they go about the DLCs in the right manner. One option a lot of fans have been suggesting is to introduce more territory and expand the map of Fallout 4 to give us more territory to explore, similar to what Shivering Isles and Dragonborn did. Now, while I'm sure if Bethesda delivered something like the Shivering Isles, we would all be more than satisfied, I still think that proponents of this suggestion are fixated on the wrong thing. And by this I mean, if Bethesda expands the map of Fallout 4 and takes us to some brand new island off the coast of Boston or something, we're still gonna be unhappy if that area is riddled with the same problems the main game of Fallout 4 had. To give you guys a metaphor, if you have a choice between two crappy pieces of pizza and one really tasty slice of pizza, obviously you're gonna go with the tasty one. What Bethesda needs to do is not give us more crappy pizza, but rather work with the pizza they already have, season it, add toppings, and make it better. Moving past my horrendous metaphor, the point is that if Bethesda expands Fallout 4's map, but the expansion has the same problems as the base game, then we're still gonna be dissatisfied. So in light of all this, my opinion is that there's only one good way for Fallout 4's first DLC to address all the problems with the base game, and that is by introducing a new faction. Or hell, even multiple factions if that's possible. I mean, think about it guys, if Bethesda introduced a new faction that was less boring than the 4 already in the game, then the first problem I listed would absolutely be addressed. Additionally, if Bethesda could make the storyline associated with this faction really good, then the second problem would also be addressed. What I want to see is a new faction whose storyline is completely different from that of the main quest or the other factions. If Bethesda could give us a faction whose storyline is separate from the main plot of Fallout 4, I feel like it would be a really nice breath of fresh air. Finally, through this new faction's quests, Bethesda would be able to fix the shallowness of content in the base version of Fallout 4 by giving us more meaningful dialogue, more varied faction quests, and longer faction quests. I mean, Bethesda's had some amazing factions in the past, like the Dark Brotherhood for instance, and Fallout New Vegas had some great factions as well, so if they just took a page from both books, they'd be well on their way to giving us an amazing DLC. And that, in sum, is what I think would be the ideal first DLC for Fallout 4. If they could give us a really creative and interesting faction, or even multiple factions, they would be able to remedy some of the problems we have with Fallout 4 for sure. Well, alright folks, that is pretty much gonna do it for this video. As always, if you enjoyed, be sure to drop me a like down below, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more Fallout 4 content in the future. Also, be sure to let me know your thoughts on what you think would be the ideal DLC for Fallout 4 down below in the comments. Otherwise, I hope you all have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.